The stars above the border system of Carthus Gate were quiet. Far from the crowded trade lanes of the galaxy, this region had always been peaceful. Cold blue stars burned slowly in the darkness. Small fields of drifting asteroids moved silently between them. Nothing important had ever happened there, until now. For the past 3 weeks, the system had become one of the most heavily guarded places in the galaxy. Alien fleets had gathered from every direction. Warships from dozens of powerful civilizations floated together in a massive formation that stretched across millions of kilometers. Their hulls reflected the distant starlight like a field of metal mountains. Thousands of ships waited in silence. Some were enormous battleships with weapons powerful enough to destroy planets. Others were fast attack cruisers designed for quick strikes. Carrier ships held entire wings of fighters inside their armored hangars. Every ship was ready for war. But strangely, no one had fired a single shot. They were not waiting for battle. They were waiting for humanity. For many years, humans had been expanding across nearby star systems. At first, the older civilizations did not worry too much. Humans were still a young species compared to many ancient empires. But humans had something unusual. They learned very fast. Their technology improved quickly. Every decade, their ships became stronger, faster, and more advanced. Their colonies spread across new worlds at an incredible speed. Factories appeared on distant planets. Shipyards grew larger every year. Human trade routes expanded farther and farther into the galaxy. At first, some alien governments admired this progress, but others became nervous. Inside the massive chamber of the Galactic Council, arguments continued for months. Some leaders spoke with concern. "The humans are expanding too quickly," one representative said. "They build fleets faster than any species we have ever seen," another warned. "They are unpredictable," a third added. Other leaders disagreed. "Humans have never attacked the Council," one diplomat said calmly. "They cooperate in trade and diplomacy," but the fear continued to grow. Finally, after many long debates, the Council made a decision. Human expansion would be restricted. New human colonies would require Council approval. Human fleets would not be allowed to move beyond certain borders of space. It was meant to be a warning. A message to slow down. When the official Council transmission finally reached Earth, the entire galaxy waited for the human response. Many alien leaders expected anger. Others expected negotiations, but most expected something else, a human fleet. Because everyone knew one thing about humanity. When humans answered threats, they did not send small responses. They sent armadas, huge groups of warships, overwhelming power. Humans believed in strength, so the Council prepared for the worst. Fleet commanders from many civilizations gathered at the border system of Carthus Gate. Thousands of warships formed defensive lines across the system. Sensor stations scanned every direction. Long-range weapons were powered and ready. If humanity tried to force its way past the border, the alien fleet would stop them. Days passed. Nothing happened. Then more days passed. Still nothing. Some officers began to wonder if humans had decided to stay silent, but the fleet commanders were not convinced. Humans were many things, but they were never quiet for long. Then finally, during the early hours of the system's long night cycle, something appeared on the scanners. A small signal blinked on the sensor displays. One object had entered the outer edge of the system. The young sensor officer leaned closer to his screen. He adjusted the filters. The signal became clearer. Metal, artificial structure, a spacecraft. His eyes widened slightly. He checked the data again, then again. The identification code appeared. Human. The officer quickly turned toward the command platform where the fleet commander stood. "Sir," he said carefully. The commander looked over. "Yes?" "A human vessel has entered the system." Murmurs spread across the bridge. The commander stepped forward. "How many?" The officer hesitated. He checked the scanner again just to be sure. The answer did not change. He swallowed slowly. "Sir, there is only one ship." The command bridge went completely silent. Several officers looked at each other in confusion. One ship? That made no sense. Humans never traveled alone during situations like this. The commander frowned deeply. "Zoom the sensors," he ordered. The large viewing screen at the front of the bridge flickered to life. A distant image slowly formed. There it was, a single dark vessel moving through the stars. The ship was large, with heavy armor plates and long engine structures glowing faintly at the rear. It looked powerful, but compared to the thousands of ships surrounding it, the vessel appeared almost small. Yet it continued moving forward, slow, steady, unafraid. Across the entire alien fleet, confusion began spreading through the communication channels. "Where is the rest of the fleet?" Is this a scout? Are more ships following behind it? But the scanner showed nothing else. Just one human ship, drifting calmly toward the largest gathering of warships the galaxy had seen in centuries. Inside the command bridge, the fleet commander stared at the screen. Something about the situation felt strange, very strange, because the human vessel did not stop. It did not turn away. It did not show fear. It simply continued moving forward, as if it already knew the outcome. And no one in the fleet understood why. The silence on the command bridge lasted for several long seconds. Every officer continued staring at the image on the main screen. The human ship moved slowly through the darkness of space, its engines glowing softly as it approached the massive alien fleet. Thousands of warships surrounded it from every direction. Yet the vessel did not slow down. It did not change course. It simply continued forward as if the fleet in front of it did not exist. The fleet commander folded his arms and studied the screen carefully. "Scan the area again," he ordered. "Full spectrum." The sensor officers immediately began running deeper scans. Long-range scanners searched the surrounding space for hidden ships, cloak signals, or warp signatures, but the results kept coming back the same. Nothing. No hidden fleet. No stealth ships. No reinforcements. Just a single human vessel. One officer spoke quietly. "Commander, there are no other ships within 10 million kilometers." Another officer added nervously, "No warp signatures either." The commander frowned. That made the situation even stranger. Humans were not reckless. They were bold, yes, confident, sometimes arrogant, but never foolish. Sending one ship against the largest alien fleet in decades would be foolish, unless the commander leaned closer to the screen. "Identify the vessel." Moments passed as the computer analyzed the ship's structure. Finally, the answer appeared. The officer read it aloud. "Human warship designation, Aegis class heavy vessel." The commander raised an eyebrow. Aegis class. He had heard of that type before. It was a powerful human ship design, but it was not the largest in their navy. Many other human ships were far bigger. And again, it was still just one ship. Across the fleet, alien communication channels were already filling with confused voices. Some captains laughed. Others were irritated. Is this supposed to be a joke? Humans finally arrived and this is all they send? Maybe it's a diplomatic ship. Or a messenger. The commander remained silent. Something about the ship bothered him. The human vessel showed no signs of fear. Most ships would slow down when approaching a hostile fleet. Most ships would request communication. This ship did neither. Instead, it moved calmly forward until it stopped exactly in the center of the system, right in front of the alien formation. Thousands of targeting sensors instantly locked onto it. Weapons across the fleet powered up. The human ship did not react. The commander finally spoke again. "Open a communication channel." The bridge officers exchanged quick glances but obeyed the order. Moments later, the main screen flickered. The image of a human appeared. He sat calmly in a command chair inside a brightly lit bridge. The human officer looked middle-aged. His uniform was simple, dark gray with small silver markings on the collar. His face showed no fear, no anger, only quiet patience. "This is Captain Elias Ward of the human vessel Aegis," the man said in clear, calm English. His voice carried easily across the bridge. "We received the Galactic Council's message." The alien commander stepped forward. His tall figure appeared on the communication screen. "You were ordered to stop human expansion beyond Council borders," he said. That message was received. Captain Ward nodded slightly. "Yes, Earth received the message?" The commander waited. The human captain did not continue. Finally, the commander asked the obvious question. "Where is the rest of your fleet?" A few alien officers quietly chuckled behind him. The situation looked almost ridiculous. Thousands of alien warships surrounded a single human ship. Surely the rest of the fleet would arrive soon. Captain Ward looked directly into the camera. Then he spoke 4 simple words. "This is the response." For a moment, no one on the alien bridge understood. Then the commander frowned. "You misunderstand," he said. "We expected a human fleet." Captain Ward remained calm. "Yes, that was discussed on Earth." The commander's eyes narrowed. "So where is it?" The human captain leaned back slightly in his chair. "You're looking at it." The words echoed across the bridge. Several alien officers burst into laughter. Even some nearby ships began transmitting amused messages across the fleet network. This is their fleet? Just one ship? This must be some kind of human humor. But the alien commander did not laugh. He continued staring at the human captain. Captain Ward was not smiling. He was not nervous. He was not pretending. He looked completely serious. And suddenly, the commander felt a strange feeling in his chest, unease, because the human ship had not powered up its weapons. It had not activated shields. It had not even changed its position. It simply floated calmly in the middle of the largest fleet in the galaxy, as if nothing there could threaten it. The commander spoke slowly. "You do realize you are surrounded by thousands of warships?" Captain Ward nodded. "Yes. And you still chose to send only one ship?" Again, the human captain nodded. "Yes." The commander's voice grew colder. "Explain." For the first time, Captain Ward allowed a faint smile to appear on his face. "Because," he said quietly, "sending more ships would have been unnecessary." The words caused a ripple of confusion across the alien fleet. Some officers laughed again. Others looked irritated. But the commander felt something else, concern, because at that exact moment, a sensor officer suddenly shouted from across the bridge, "Commander." Everyone turned. "What is it?" the commander demanded. The officer's voice shook slightly. "I'm detecting a massive energy increase coming from the human ship." The laughter on the bridge instantly stopped. All eyes turned back to the screen. The dark human vessel still floated silently in space, but now faint waves of light were beginning to ripple across its hull. Something inside that single ship had just activated, and suddenly, the entire alien fleet began to wonder if one ship was really all humanity needed. The moment the sensor officer finished speaking, the entire command bridge became tense. All eyes turned back to the massive screen. The human ship still floated in the center of the system, surrounded by thousands of alien warships. But something had changed. Faint lines of light began moving across the surface of the vessel. They looked like streams of glowing energy flowing through the metal hull. At first the change was small, barely noticeable, but the scanners began reacting immediately. One sensor officer leaned closer to his console. His voice was uncertain. "Commander, energy levels are rising." "How much?" the commander asked. The officer checked the readings again. Then his eyes widened, far beyond normal reactor output. Another officer quickly joined the analysis. "That amount of energy shouldn't be possible for a ship that size." The commander stepped closer to the main screen. "Is it charging weapons?" The answer came quickly. "No, sir." The officer sounded confused. "It's not weapon energy." "Then what is it?" The officer hesitated. "We don't know." Across the alien fleet, similar reports were appearing. Ships began sending warning signals across their communication channels. "Unknown energy signature detected. Human vessel power output increasing. Recommend caution." Meanwhile, the human ship did nothing aggressive. It did not move. It did not fire. It simply remained where it was, glowing softly as energy flowed through its systems. On the alien command bridge, the commander turned back toward the communication screen. Captain Elias Ward was still sitting calmly in his chair, watching, waiting. The alien commander spoke sharply. "What are you doing?" Captain Ward answered without hesitation. "Demonstrating." "Demonstrating what?" The human captain tilted his head slightly. "Why we sent only one ship." A ripple of unease spread across the alien bridge. The commander's voice grew colder. "You are surrounded by the most powerful fleet in this region of the galaxy. I'm aware. And yet you are activating unknown systems?" "Yes." The commander narrowed his eyes. "That would be considered a hostile action." Captain Ward remained calm. "Only if you misunderstand it." Before the commander could respond, a sudden alarm echoed across the bridge. One of the sensor officers shouted, "Gravitational distortion detected." The commander turned immediately. "Location? Near the human vessel." Everyone looked back to the screen. The space around the human ship was beginning to change. Stars behind the vessel looked stretched and warped, as if space itself was bending. A strange ripple spread outward from the ship, like a wave moving through water. But this was not water. It was space. The commander stared in disbelief. "What kind of technology is this?" The science officer quickly ran simulations, but nothing made sense. "No known weapon behaves like this." "Then what is it?" The officer swallowed. "It looks like spatial manipulation." Several officers looked confused. The commander spoke slowly. "Explain." The scientist pointed toward the screen. "The human ship is not charging a weapon. It is altering local space-time." Silence filled the bridge. "That is impossible," one officer whispered. But the sensors continued showing the same results. Gravity waves moved slowly through the system. The fabric of space around the human vessel was bending and shifting. Then suddenly another alert appeared. "Commander, What now? The officer's voice trembled slightly. A large asteroid is drifting 300,000 kilometers from the human ship. The commander frowned. Yes? The officer looked pale. It just moved. 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 No engines, no impact, it just changed direction. The asteroid slowly drifted across the screen. Then something even stranger happened. The massive rock suddenly stopped in the middle of space. Frozen. Completely still. The officer stared at the readings. That asteroid weighs over 2 billion tons, and the human ship just stopped it. The commander felt a cold feeling move through his chest. The asteroid had not exploded. It had not been hit by a weapon. Space itself had simply changed around it. Then, slowly, the asteroid began moving again, but this time it was moving toward the human vessel, not drifting, controlled, like an object being pulled by invisible hands. Across the alien fleet, messages of confusion and fear began spreading quickly. What is happening? Is that a weapon? How is the human ship doing that? Back on the command bridge, the commander turned again toward the communication screen. Captain Ward watched quietly. You planned this demonstration, the commander said. Yes, the captain replied calmly. The commander pointed toward the screen. You are controlling the asteroid. Correct. With what system? Captain Ward paused for a moment. Then he answered. The Spatial Authority Engine. The words meant nothing to most of the officers on the bridge, but the science officer suddenly looked horrified. That technology is theoretical. Captain Ward nodded slightly. It used to be. The alien commander felt the tension in the room rising. Thousands of warships surrounded the human vessel, but suddenly that fact felt far less comforting, because the human ship was not showing strength through weapons. It was showing control. Control over space itself. The commander asked one final question. Why bring this here? Captain Ward leaned forward slightly. His voice remained calm. Because your council believed humans needed to be restricted. The commander said nothing. The human captain continued. So we came to clarify something important. The alien commander's voice was quiet. What is that? Captain Ward looked directly at him. You believed we sent fleets to win wars. The commander waited. Then the human captain finished the sentence. But fleets are slow. The bridge remained silent. Captain Ward's faint smile returned. This ship isn't. The words of Captain Elias Ward hung in the air, like a quiet warning. This ship isn't. For a long moment, no one on the alien command bridge spoke. The human vessel still floated in the middle of the system, glowing softly as waves of strange energy moved across its surface. Around it, thousands of alien warships held their positions, but something had changed. The atmosphere on the bridge was no longer confident, it was tense. The alien commander slowly turned toward the science officers. Explain exactly what we are seeing. The chief scientist adjusted several screens, pulling up the newest sensor data. His hands moved quickly, but his voice sounded uneasy. Commander, the human vessel is generating a controlled distortion field around itself. What does that mean? The commander asked. The scientist hesitated. It means the ship is not just moving through space. It is shaping it. Murmurs spread across the bridge. That is impossible, one officer said. The scientist shook his head. Not according to these readings. He pointed toward the screen, the asteroid that stopped earlier. It was not pulled by gravity or engines. Then how did it move? The scientist answered slowly. The human ship changed the structure of space around it. The commander stared at the display. The asteroid was still floating near the human ship, held in place as if invisible hands were gripping it. Several smaller pieces of rock were now drifting around it in controlled patterns, like toys being moved by a careful child. Across the alien fleet, communications were filling with worried messages. What kind of weapon is this? Are we under attack? Should we fire? The commander quickly raised his hand. No weapons, he ordered. Thousands of ships held their fire. For now, on the screen, Captain Ward continued watching calmly. You see the problem now, the human captain said. The commander crossed his arms. You demonstrated a new technology. Yes. That does not change the situation. Captain Ward raised an eyebrow. No, you are still surrounded. The commander gestured toward the massive fleet behind him. Thousands of ships. Captain Ward nodded slightly. Yes, I noticed. The commander leaned forward. And yet you still believe one ship is enough. Yes. The calm answer made several officers on the bridge shift nervously. The commander's voice hardened. You are overconfident. Captain Ward shook his head. No. Before the commander could respond, another alarm echoed across the bridge. Commander, What is it now? Multiple spatial distortions detected. The commander turned toward the sensor station. How many? The officer looked stunned. Dozens. Where? The officer pointed at the screen. All around the alien fleet, small waves of distortion began appearing, not near the human ship, but everywhere, behind them, between them, inside their formations. The science officer quickly checked the readings, then his face went pale. Commander, the human vessel isn't just controlling the area around itself. What do you mean? The scientist swallowed. It has extended the distortion field across the entire system. Shock spread through the bridge. That's impossible. But the sensor readings continued confirming it. Every ship in the alien fleet was now inside the strange field. Then something even worse happened. One of the battleships at the edge of the formation suddenly stopped moving. Its engines were still firing, but the ship did not move. A frightened voice came through the fleet communication network. This is the warship Talvax. Our engines are running, but we cannot change position. Another voice followed. Same here. Navigation controls are unresponsive. Across the fleet, ships began reporting the same problem. Their engines worked, their weapon systems worked, but their ships could no longer move through space. It was as if the entire fleet had been locked into place. The alien commander stared at the screen in disbelief. You stopped our fleet, Captain Ward calmly corrected him. No, the commander looked confused. Then what did you do? The human captain answered simply, we stopped space. The words sent a wave of cold silence across the bridge. Thousands of alien warships now floated helplessly in the system. They could still fire their weapons, but they could not maneuver. They could not escape, and they could not approach the human ship. Captain Ward spoke again. You asked why we sent only one ship. The alien commander said nothing. The human captain continued. Because this vessel does not fight fleets. The commander's voice was quiet now. What does it fight? Captain Ward looked directly at him. Battlefields. The commander slowly understood the meaning. The human ship did not need to destroy thousands of enemies. It simply removed the battlefield itself. Without movement, fleets meant nothing. Without distance, tactics meant nothing. Without space, war became impossible. Captain Ward leaned slightly closer to the screen. We did not come here to destroy your fleet. The commander spoke slowly. Then why did you come? The human captain answered calmly. To show you something important. The commander waited. Captain Ward finished the sentence quietly. You cannot control humanity anymore. Outside the viewports, the silent alien fleet remained frozen in space, and the single human ship drifted calmly between them, untouchable. The alien command bridge remained completely silent. Every officer stared at the massive screen showing the human ship drifting calmly between thousands of frozen warships. Moments earlier, the fleet had been confident. Now that confidence was gone. The alien commander slowly walked toward the central display. Outside the viewports, the enormous fleet still filled the system. Battleships, cruisers, carriers, thousands of weapons powerful enough to destroy planets. Yet none of it mattered now. Every ship was trapped. Their engines were running, but they could not move. Space itself had been locked. The commander spoke quietly. All ships, report status. Across the fleet communication network, frightened voices answered one after another. This is Cruiser Valtrix. Engines active, but we cannot maneuver. Battleship Rathan here. Navigation controls unresponsive. Carrier Solkar reporting the same problem. Dozens of similar reports followed. No ship had been damaged. No weapon had been fired. But every vessel in the fleet was stuck exactly where it was. The commander slowly turned back to the screen. Captain Elias Ward still sat calmly in his chair aboard the human vessel. The alien commander studied him carefully. You have immobilized an entire fleet, he said. Captain Ward shook his head slightly. No. The commander frowned. Explain. We immobilized the battlefield. The simple answer made several officers shift nervously. The alien commander crossed his arms. You are demonstrating power. Yes. Why? Captain Ward looked out of his own bridge window for a moment, watching the frozen alien ships around him. Then he answered, because your council believed humans needed to be controlled. The commander did not respond. The human captain continued, for many years humanity expanded peacefully. We traded, we shared technology, we respected council law. The alien commander's voice grew firm, but your expansion was becoming dangerous. Captain Ward nodded slowly. That is what you believed. And now? The commander asked. The human captain leaned forward slightly. Now you are beginning to understand the situation. Across the bridge, Tension filled the air. One of the alien officers whispered to the commander, "Sir, if the humans can do this with one ship." The officer did not finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The meaning was obvious. If one ship could control an entire battlefield, then a full human fleet would be unstoppable. The commander spoke again. "How many ships like this exist?" Captain Ward remained quiet for several seconds. Then he gave an unexpected answer. "Very few." The alien officers exchanged glances. "Then this is a prototype?" the commander asked. "Yes." "And you risked it here?" Captain Ward smiled faintly. "No." The commander frowned. "What do you mean?" The human captain gestured toward the frozen alien fleet outside. "We came here because it was the safest place to test it." The meaning of the words slowly spread across the bridge. The alien fleet had not been the threat. It had been the test environment. Several officers looked disturbed. The commander's voice lowered. "You brought experimental technology into a confrontation with the entire Council fleet?" Captain Ward nodded calmly. "Yes." The commander stared at him. "That is reckless." "No," the human captain said quietly. "It is confidence." Outside the ships, faint waves of distortion still moved across the system. The stars looked slightly bent around the human vessel. Space itself seemed unstable, but the alien ships remained perfectly frozen. Finally, the commander spoke again. "What happens next?" Captain Ward answered immediately. "That depends on you." The commander narrowed his eyes. "Meaning?" "You can fire your weapons." Several alien officers looked at each other nervously. Technically, they could. Their weapons were still active. Thousands of guns were aimed directly at the human ship. But something about the situation had changed. The commander asked the obvious question. "If we fire, what will happen?" Captain Ward's voice remained calm. "Nothing." The commander frowned. "Nothing. You will destroy the ship." The bridge went silent again. The alien commander studied the human captain carefully. "You are admitting defeat?" Captain Ward shook his head. "No." "Then explain." The human captain looked directly into the camera. "Because destroying this ship will not stop the technology." The commander slowly understood. "There are more." "Yes. And they will return." Captain Ward nodded. The alien commander looked around the bridge. Thousands of alien ships filled the system. But suddenly those numbers felt meaningless. The human captain spoke again. "You asked earlier why we sent only one ship." "Yes." Captain Ward leaned slightly forward. "Because we did not come to fight your fleet." The commander waited. Then the human captain finished his sentence. "We came to give the galaxy a warning." The alien commander spoke quietly. "What warning?" Captain Ward answered calmly. "Humanity is no longer the species you believe it is." Outside the frozen fleet, the single human ship continued drifting peacefully through the silent battlefield, untouchable, unstoppable. And for the first time in centuries, the alien commander realized something terrifying. The galaxy had just witnessed the future of war, and it belonged to humans. The alien command bridge felt colder than before. No alarms were sounding, no weapons were firing, but the tension inside the room was heavier than any battle. The alien commander stood quietly, staring at the image of the human captain on the screen. Around him, officers continued watching their instruments, but no one spoke unless absolutely necessary. Outside the viewports, the alien fleet still filled the star system, thousands of warships. Yet every one of them remained trapped in place. The commander slowly walked toward the main observation window. From there, he could see dozens of ships drifting in formation. Engines glowed, weapon batteries remained active, but none of the ships could move even a single meter. Space itself held them in place. He finally spoke again. "Release the fleet." Captain Elias Ward remained calm on the screen. "That depends." The commander turned back toward him. "On what?" "On the decision your council makes." The commander folded his arms. "You are forcing diplomacy." Ward shook his head slightly. "No." "Then what is this?" "A demonstration." The word echoed across the bridge. The commander glanced again toward the frozen fleet. "You could destroy us?" "Yes, but you haven't." "No." "Why?" Captain Ward leaned back in his chair. "Because humanity did not come here for war." One of the alien officers suddenly spoke. "Then why arrive with such a dangerous weapon?" Ward answered calmly. "Because sometimes peace requires clarity." The officer frowned. "That makes no sense." Ward gestured toward the surrounding ships. "For centuries, the Council believed humans were a developing civilization. That belief is no longer correct." The commander remained quiet. The human captain continued. "Your council attempted to restrict human expansion. That action assumed you had the power to enforce it. The commander replied firmly. The council has enforced its laws for thousands of years. Captain Ward nodded slightly. Yes, but never against humanity. Silence returned to the bridge. Several alien officers shifted nervously. The commander finally asked the question that had been growing in everyone's mind. If humanity possesses this technology, why has the galaxy never seen it before? Ward's answer came immediately. Because humans believe in restraint. The commander narrowed his eyes. Restraint? For many years, Ward continued, humanity avoided revealing certain technologies. We understood that showing too much power would cause fear, and fear causes war. The commander studied him. So you hid your strength? Yes. And today you revealed it. Ward nodded once. Because your council forced the situation. Outside the command ship, faint waves of distortion still rippled across the star system. The alien fleet remained completely motionless. Finally, the commander asked quietly, "How large is the human fleet?" Ward smiled faintly. "That information is classified." The commander did not smile. "How many ships like yours exist?" The human captain paused before answering, "Enough." The simple word made several officers exchange uneasy looks. If even a small number of ships carried this technology, then traditional fleets were already obsolete. The commander slowly returned to the center of the bridge. "Suppose the council removes the restrictions." Ward watched him carefully. "Then this demonstration ends peacefully, and if the council refuses?" The human captain answered calmly. "Then humanity will continue expanding." "You would ignore council law?" Ward tilted his head slightly. "Law requires authority." The meaning was clear. The alien commander exhaled slowly. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council had controlled trade routes, borders, and conflicts across hundreds of civilizations. But now that power felt fragile. One ship had just proven it. The commander looked again toward the frozen fleet. Thousands of warships, and none of them mattered. He turned back to the communication screen. "You could destroy this entire fleet right now." Ward nodded. "Yes, but you will not." "No." "Yes, but you will not." "No." "Because you want the council to understand something." Ward smiled faintly. "Yes." The commander spoke quietly. "That the balance of power has changed." Captain Ward leaned slightly forward. "It already changed." The commander remained silent. For the first time in centuries, he felt something he had rarely experienced: uncertainty. After a moment, he gave a new order. "Send a message to the Galactic Council." One of the officers looked up. "What should we say, Commander?" The alien leader looked again at the human ship drifting between the frozen fleet. Then he answered slowly, "Tell them the situation has changed." The officer waited. The commander finished the message. "Tell them humanity did not send a fleet." Across the bridge, every officer listened carefully. The commander spoke the final words. "They only sent one ship." Outside the viewports, the silent human vessel drifted peacefully among the immobilized warships, a single dark ship in a sea of metal giants. Yet somehow, it was the most powerful thing in the entire galaxy. The message to the Galactic Council traveled across the stars faster than any ship. Encrypted signals moved through relay stations, deep space communication arrays, and ancient council satellites that had connected the galaxy for thousands of years. Inside the Great Council chamber, representatives from dozens of civilizations gathered once again. The chamber was enormous. Floating platforms held the leaders of many alien species. Some were tall and armored, others small and delicate. Some spoke through translators while others communicated through glowing energy fields. All of them had come to discuss one problem: humanity. For months, the council had argued about the growing human expansion. Some civilizations feared humans were becoming too powerful. Others believed the council was overreacting. But now a new report had arrived, and the tone of the chamber had changed. The council transmission from Carthus Gate played across the massive central display. The image showed the alien fleet, thousands of warships, all completely motionless, frozen in the darkness of space. A wave of shocked whispers moved through the chamber. One representative spoke first. "What happened to the fleet?" Another asked nervously. "Were they attacked?" Nervously. "Were they attacked?" Then the voice of the fleet commander appeared in the recording. "Galactic Council, this is Fleet Commander Verax, reporting from Carthus Gate." The commander's face looked calm, but his voice carried a strange tension. "You should be aware that the situation has changed." The recording zoomed toward the center of the star system. There, between the immobilized alien ships, a single human vessel floated quietly. The council chamber grew silent. One council member leaned forward. "Where is the human fleet?" Commander Verax answered clearly. There is no fleet. More murmurs filled the chamber. Impossible. They would never face the council with one ship. The commander continued speaking. The human vessel has demonstrated advanced spatial control technology. The recording showed the strange distortion waves moving through space around the ship. Stars bent. Asteroids moved without engines, and the alien fleet remained trapped in place. Shock spread across the chamber. A scientist among the council representatives stood up suddenly. That technology should not exist. Another leader spoke with disbelief. You allowed a single human ship to immobilize the entire fleet? Commander Varex's voice remained steady. We did not allow it. The recording paused for a moment. Then the commander finished his explanation. We were unable to stop it. The chamber became completely silent. For centuries, the Galactic Council had believed its fleets were the strongest military force in the galaxy, but now one human ship had proven otherwise. One of the older council members spoke slowly. If humanity possesses this technology, then they no longer need fleets. Another leader responded nervously, and we cannot enforce expansion limits. A third voice spoke from across the chamber. This is exactly why humans are dangerous. But another representative shook their head. No. Everyone turned toward the speaker. The tall, silver-skinned ambassador from a distant empire spoke calmly. This is why humans should never have been threatened. The chamber fell quiet again. The recording continued playing. Commander Varex spoke his final message to the council. Humanity did not arrive with an army. They arrived with a warning. The recording ended with a clear image of the single human ship drifting peacefully among thousands of trapped warships. The council leaders stared at the display. One ship, just one, and yet it had changed everything. Finally, the high speaker of the council rose from his platform. His deep voice filled the chamber. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council has maintained balance among civilizations. He paused. But today we have learned something important. The chamber waited. The high speaker looked directly at the image of the human ship. We believed humanity was a young civilization. Another pause. We were wrong. Several council members exchanged uneasy looks. The high speaker continued. The question before us is no longer whether humanity should be restricted. It is whether the council can afford to challenge them at all. No one spoke, because the answer had already become clear. Far away at Carthus Gate, the single human ship still floated calmly among the silent fleet, waiting, watching, not as an enemy, but as a reminder. The galaxy had just witnessed something new. The moment when humanity stopped being a rising power and became the power that shaped the future of the stars.